Originally, I had planned to talk about the Game Gear titles, but for the sake of this video's length and your sanity, I'm actually going to be leaving out the Game Gear titles and spin-offs, but fret not, as I will be making an entire separate video just for these games.
It's time. So, around, holy crap, 5 months ago? Well, better late than never. As promised from my last video on the topic of Classic Sonic's iconic history, we will actually not be touching upon his mainline games, as we did that already, and an iCard above will be in the corner right there if you want to watch part 1 of this short little series I'm doing. Many of the games I'm going to be taking a look at are actually pretty diverse and are quite unique in many ways, and it's actually quite interesting when you get down to the center of everything else that came with classic Sonic games. So, without any more rambling, let's get into this. So, unlike the original 16-bit version of this game, Sonic 1 Game Gear is not just a direct port of this game, but more so a whole new game with just the same name. Unlike the Sonic one most of you may know, Sonic the Hedgehog was released on the first Sega handheld console, the Sega Game Gear. The Game Gear is an 8-bit 4th generation handheld game console released by Sega on October 6, 1990. The Game Gear primarily competed with Nintendo's Game Boy, and the Atari Lynx, and the NEC's Turbo Express. But with that clarification out of the way, let's chat more about what Sonic 1 Game Gear brought to the table. Sonic sets out to save the animals of South Island from the nefarious Dr. Robotnik, who plans to turn them into robots, just as he did the original. Skipping ahead during gameplay in order to acquire shields, speed shoes, and invincibility, as well as mark checkpoints, you, the player, hops between platforms, avoids opponents, and breaks televisions. Sonic gathers rings, just like in the original, to defend him from being hit by a badnik or just straight up spikes. The player is given 3 lives at the start of the game and loses 1 if they are hit without any rings, drown, or fall into a bottomless pit. If they lose all their lives, they will receive a game over notice and will have to restart. In comparison to the original, the gameplay is a little bit slower and more focused on exploration. Sonic journeys through 6 zones, each of them which has 2 main acts and a boss fight with Robotnik. These zones are Green Hill Zone, Bridge Zone, Jungle Zone, Labyrinth Zone, Scrap Brain Zone, and Skybase Zone. While some level themes such as Green Hill Zone are carried over from the 16-bit versions, others are new, and all level designs are unique and do not involve vertical loops. Some levels in this game require rapid precision, while others need the player to dive underwater, and Chaos Emeralds are concealed in certain acts, and the player must gather all 6 to get the best possible ending. If the player has more than 50 rings, they can enter a pinball bonus stage where they can collect more rings and continue the game. Overall, this game isn't really bad, but the numerous complaints I've seen for this game come from the length of this game, which I can totally understand. Some other things this game adds is an overworld map, which I think is a great addition to the game, and the sprite work and the music is just so well done. And if you want to just go off the OST, Bridge Zone is actually somehow one of my favorite tracks in the entire game. So I actually have quite a bit to say on this game. Somehow, and in some way, it is one of my first Sonic games that I ended up playing growing up. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Sega Game Gear is very drastically different and presents many new and original ideas to the game that alter it and make it very different from the 16-bit version of Sonic 2 on the Sega Genesis. First off, the way the story works. The tale picks up after the events of the last game, with Sonic returning home to discover that Dr. Robotnik has kidnapped Miles Tails Prower, prompting Sonic to set out and save him. It's like when in the Super Mario series Peach gets kidnapped kinda, except in this game, if you fail to save Tails, well, it's implied Eggman killed him. Very dark, I know, but there's also probably some video talking about... oh. Sonic acquires power-ups such as speed boost and invincibility that give him temporary abilities, as well as rings to defend himself from being attacked by opponents or obstacles, just like in the original. Sonic starts out with 3 lives. If he is hit while not holding any rings, he will lose one of them. If you lose all of your lives, the game is finished. However, there are a few changes. Checkpoints and shield items have been removed, which is annoying, and Sonic can now gather rings that he drops when he is harmed. Sonic the Hedgehog features certain abilities from the Sega Genesis version, such as the ability to smash through barriers and run through vertical loops. Sonic may also navigate the levels using various kinds of transportation, such as minecarts and hang gliders. The game is divided into 7 zones, each with 2 major acts and a boss battle against one of Dr. Robotnik's robots. Many of the zones in this game are very original and do not even have any traces of what would be the version of Sonic 2 most people recognize. The zones in this game are Underground Zone, Sky High Zone, Aqua Lake Zone, Green Hills Zone, Gimmick Mountain Zone, Scrambled Egg Zone, and Crystal Egg Zone as an extra level, just like how Egg Reverie works in Sonic Mania. While the 8-bit Sonic 1 stages were thematically similar to those of the original 16-bit Sonic game, Sonic 2 has its own set of levels that set it apart from its 16-bit predecessor. The player hits a signpost at the end of each major act, which spins and lands on a picture, which can award bonuses depending on which image it lands on. Throughout the stages, there are 6 Chaos Emeralds to acquire. Something else unique to this game is that Supersonic is not included in this version of the game. Also, the player will be able to save Tails at the conclusion of the game if they gather all the emeralds. However, if you don't... Lastly, the OST for this game is amazing, and one of my favorite tracks is Sky High. Just take a listen. The last two games I just covered both had an alternative version for the Sega Genesis. However, Sega Sonic the Hedgehog is not in the same boat. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog was a game that was only released on arcades and used a trackball for movement, so likely it was hard to emulate. The game itself is also not very long, as it was meant for arcade systems. This is also the very first game where Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel were first showcased, until many years later, with both of them becoming playable characters in Sonic Mania Plus, and a little bit before that in Knuckles Chaotix with just Mighty. Sega Sonic the Hedgehog is a platform game that has been compared to another arcade game, Marble Madness. In terms of playability, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mighty the Armadillo, and Ray the Flying Squirrel are the 3 characters that the player can control individually or simultaneously with 2 other players. After series nemesis Dr. Eggman confines them on this island, the plot follows the 3 characters. They must work together to escape, avoiding different traps and dangers on their way to Eggman's base, the Eggman Tower. The game is divided into 7 levels, each of them which must be completed in the shortest amount of time possible. A trackball is used to control the speed and direction of a character in an isometric perspective, and a button is used to make the fighter jump into a spin attack. If the bar runs out, the player loses a life. Collect rings that are strewn all over the course or hidden inside obstacles or adversaries to regain health. When a player collects a particular percentage of rings in the level, they obtain additional rings to utilize in the following levels. At the end of the game, when Eggman reaches him, he presses a button that causes the island to self-destruct. The 3 heroes make it out unscathed, but Eggman is trapped at sea. Now, of course, somehow and in some way, Eggman does eventually get out of there, just like he did somehow in Sonic Generations ending. Now, this game's original soundtrack is nothing special, and at times feels like random noises and not an actual song. Truly, this game is not one of the most memorable games in Sonic's entire history. Thankfully, it's very cool to see how they introduced 2 new characters that we seem to know and love a lot more in today's, I guess, pop culture, with Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. I know that this is an arcade game, and I wasn't expecting too much or having that big of an expectation with this game. Overall, though, it's pretty fun in some ways, but still, I probably wouldn't recommend it. Now, this game is something of a strange taste. I have a few things I'd probably like to say about this game, but one of the major things is what it tried to accomplish. So, to lead off, players control one of 2 characters in Sonic Chaos, Sonic the Hedgehog or Miles Tells Prower, and must complete each of the game's 8 worlds in order to collect the Chaos Emeralds from the villainous scientist Dr. Robotnik, who plans to utilize them to rule the world. Each zone is divided into 3 acts, the 3rd act which features a boss fight against one of Robotnik's henchbots, or Robotnik himself in the final zone. These zones are Turquoise Hill Zone, Gigalopolis Zone, Sleeping Egg Zone, Mecha Green Hill Zone, Aqua Planet Zone, and Electric Egg Zone. The levels are based on those on Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and are designed to allow the user to go as quickly as possible. Sonic and Tails must run through each level while collecting rings and defeating Robotnik's robotic minions. Rings prevent Sonic and Tails from being attacked by enemies or obstacles. Small television monitors can also be destroyed to reveal a power-up emblem that grants Sonic and Tails special abilities like Speed Juice, a one-hit shield, and additional lives. Chaos introduces a number of new features to the fundamental Sonic gameplay. Sonic has a move dubbed the Super Peel Out, which he first used in Sonic CD, that allows him to move extremely quickly, while Tails has the ability to fly and can hover above traps and other obstacles. Sonic can obtain a new power-up known as Rocket Shoes, which allows him to fly for a brief period of time. Tails, on the other hand, is unable to use this and will instead receive extra rings if he smashes a monitor housing Rocket Shoes. Sonic will be teleported to a special stage if he collects 100 rings in a final level, and if he completes it, he will receive the Chaos Emerald. Definitely one thing I see going forward as a pattern for these spin-offs for Sonic 1, 2, and Chaos so far is how multiple endings are implemented into the games, and this is definitely something I would love to see more of the modern Sonic games use. Unlike Sega Sonic, this game's original soundtrack is definitely worth mentioning. Two of my favorite tracks are Gigaopolis Zone and of course Mecha Green Hill. Now, one of my favorite things about this game in particular is how this is the first and only Sonic game to tie into the old 90s Sonic TV show, which is really cool. But regardless, skipping ahead, Sonic Spinball is a pinball game where the user controls Sonic the Hedgehog, who plays the role of the pinball in the pinball defense system, which resembles a collection of giant pinball machines, and this is where the majority of the game will take place. There are 4 stages in the game, each with many flippers that may be used to aim Sonic's trajectory and launch him through the level. Sonic may be manipulated in the air using the D-pad, which can be useful for improved positioning and where you want Sonic to go. Each level's objective is to drain the bumpers or flippers. Each level's objective is to acquire all the Chaos Emeralds and then defeat the newly available boss at the level's top. Some of the Chaos Emeralds are obstructed by obstacles that require Sonic to hit specific switches or bumpers to clear a route. To beat a boss at the top of each stage, you'll need a precise strategy. A status strip at the top of the screen will offer tips for fighting bosses, as well as encouraging remarks as the player progresses. The strip also indicates how many Chaos Emeralds remain on the level, and a bonus round will begin after every boss adversary is defeated. And Sonic is depicted playing a standard pinball machine during these rounds. The player is given 3 balls to shoot around the board, with the goal of hitting as many bumpers and targets as possible to get points. The player can initiate a tilt shake at any time during the bonus round, which shakes the table and alters the ball's trajectory. If you use the tilt shake too often, all your flippers will lock out and the ball will tumble down the toilet. The bonus round will end when the bonus round's goal is met or when all 3 balls fall down through the flippers, and the next level will then begin. The player wins when all of the game's Chaos Emeralds are collected and all 4 boss foes are defeated. Sonic has 3 lives at the start of the game. When Sonic slips down the drain, he loses a life. An extra life can be obtained by earning 20 million points by hitting bumpers, traveling around loops, collecting rings, and destroying opposing characters. This game's original soundtrack doesn't have the craziest songs, but I absolutely remember the one amazing track of Toxic Caves. Do you like garbage games? Then you'll love this. And this is no joke. People think 06, Secret Rings, or Forces as the worst Sonic game, but this is objectively not what you think, but what quite literally is the worst Sonic game. Sonic Labyrinth is a pinball-style action and puzzle game, and has been compared to Marble Madness and is presented from an isometric perspective. Dr. Robotnik, the series villain, has fooled Sonic the Hedgehog into wearing special shoes that reduce his speed. Thus, Sonic must gather the Chaos Emeralds in order to remove the shoes from his feet. What kind of plot is that? Sonic is controlled by the player, who must navigate him through maze-like stages loaded with opponents and obstacles. Sonic moves at an unusually sluggish pace, and he can roll into a ball and dash through levels to eliminate opponents and avoid danger. During gameplay, you can charge his spin dash move for increased speed and damage. To advance to the next level, Sonic must collect 3 rings in each stage and bring them to the goal. It's possible that the keys are buried within foes, and the game is divided into 4 zones, each with 3 stages. There is also a bonus round for gathering rings and a boss encounter after each set of 3 stages. In the bonus round, collecting 100 rings will grant the player an extra life. A time attack option is also accessible after completing this game. So, that's cool. Now the soundtrack. It's dog shit. You want to listen to it? Be my guest. Takes 5 seconds to look up a link for the whole soundtrack, including all 16 songs. Overall, this game is horrible, the plot is stupid, and the game controls horribly, and that doesn't even go that in depth on the game. Just so you know, should you only be trying to play Sonic Labyrinth if A, you are being paid, or B, if a gun is at your head? Don't play this game. The year is 1993, and Sega released the 32X, a shitty add-on to the Sega Genesis that nobody wanted. However, one memorable thing came with the release of the 32X, Knuckles Chaostix. The game which stars Knuckles the Echidna as well as the Chaostix, which are a group of new characters introduced into the game. Knuckles Chaostix is a side-scrolling platformer in the style of the previous Sonic games. Unlike previous Sonic games, players are linked to a computer or a human-controlled player, and the tether acts like a rubber band and must be handled appropriately to progress your stages. Each of the 5 playable characters in the game has their own special talents. SBO the Chameleon can run along walls and ceilings, Knuckles the Echidna can glide and climb walls, Mighty the Armadillo can wall jump, Vector the Crocodile can boost through the air and climb walls, and Charmy the Bee can fly and hover. The plot is set on a strange island, and it chronicles the group's efforts to prevent Dr. Robotnik and Metal Sonic from using the island's mystical chaos rings to further their evil plans. The game is divided into 6 levels, which are referred to as attractions. Isolated Island, Techno Tower, Botanic Base, Speed Slider, Amazing Arena, and Marina Madness are the 5 acts, which is way too many, that make up each of these attractions. The 5th level culminates in a boss battle against Robotnik and one of his massive robots. Each act is decorated for a specific time of day, such as morning, noon, evening, or night. Players collect rings, jump to conduct a spin attack to fight opponents, and can spin dash on the ground to boost speed. Just like in the previous Sonic games, rings, shield, and speed shoes are examples of power-ups. The partner system allows players to do things they couldn't do in previous Sonic games. If they are separated, they can contact their companion, which reunites them with the main character by costing rings. And funnily enough, you can get into a negative amount of rings in only this game. If the player's companion is controlled by a computer, the player can stop and anchor the partner to perform special actions like snapping to a higher ledge or thrusting to gain speed. Before entering the stage, the player must first choose a partner and a level in the hub planet. Bonus stages can be found throughout the attractions, or they can be unlocked by collecting 20 or more rings and discovering one of the huge golden rings concealed throughout each level. The player is free-falling and picks up power-ups in the bonus levels. Finishing the level with 50 or more rings also unlocks special stages. The player gathers blue spheres in a forward-scrolling platformer to obtain a Chaos Ring in these segments. The good ending is unlocked by collecting all Chaos Rings, in which Sonic and Tails are seen with the Chaostix at the credits, who have liberated the island from Robotnik. However, the bad ending is particularly memorable, and it just scared me to the core as a kid. It sucks too, because after getting that great feeling of being the final boss, this will actually feel like the worst ending ever, since you watch as this alternate red large metal Sonic destroys a city, and let's be honest here, the good ending isn't that much better. The screen goes to white and the Chaos Rings appear with the word "Cool," and then it just cuts to the title screen with Sonic and Tails as a cameo. Also, for no reason, Sonic has 10 legs. Why? Moving forward, something this game will never get any flack for is the music. Holy shit, the music in this game is phenomenal. I can make an entire video on the topic. But for now, a few of my favorite tracks are Door into Summer, and Seascape.
Around the mid-2000s, the Sega Saturn wasn't doing too well. So what's the solution that you come to when your brand new console isn't doing well? Ditch it and go to the one that actually worked. That's right, Sega of America and Sega of Europe requested that a new Sonic game for the Mega Drive be made by none other than UK-based studio Traveller's Tales, who recently put out a very successful Toy Story game. Traveller's Tales initially didn't want to work on another Mega Drive game. Then once when they heard it was a Sonic game, they wanted to do it. Development began in late 1995 before being officially announced as Sonic Blast in 1996. Obviously that name wouldn't stick. Instead, because of all of Sonic's contemporaries going actually fully 3D, they shoved 3D into the title because I guess he moves in a different direction this time. I'm sorry, but when Mario's doing this in 3D and then Sonic's doing this is just sad. Sonic 3D Blast, or also known as Sonic Flicky's Island, was eventually released in 1996, along with the Sega Saturn port that November. This being done to make up for the cancellation of Sonic Extreme, what was supposed to be Sonic's actual first 3D release. The plot of Sonic 3D Blast is an existent one, but it's not much. Dr. Eggman discovers these birds called Flickies that live on an island in an alternate dimension. He learns that they can travel anywhere using these large rings that you see in the game. So he exploits this by turning all the Flickies into robots, in order to help him search for Chaos Emeralds. But of course, Sonic arrives at the island somehow, and is tasked with saving the Flickies and defeating all the enemies. But honestly, I'm not expecting too great or amazing of a story out of a Sonic game built for the Mega Drive. What works about those Sonic Mega Drive games is the gameplay. And the gameplay in here, I think, isn't that good. It obviously has its charm. It's not made by Sonic Team, it looks different. It's trying to be 3D, which gives it charm, but it's not doing it well, so I'm not going to compliment it. The gameplay is just really tedious, and Sonic's physics and controls are all over the place. The angle that the camera is so strange and weird. I literally have never played any game similar to this. It looks like a Traveler's Tales game at the time, but that's not necessarily a compliment for what it's trying to do. What worked about that first Toy Story game that they made, it was a side-scroller, and the physics fit Toy Story. This doesn't fit Sonic. I'm not trying to compare it to Toy Story because the controls very different, but how they were able to capture how a Toy Story game would play, they weren't able to capture how a 3D Sonic game would play. I say 3D very lightly, but just the overall design and controls just throws the entire experience off. The special stages are kind of fun actually, I enjoy them, and I like the concept around it. It's really engaging and interesting. It's not really been done in any form of Sonic media, and diving into the Flickies more is something that more Sonic media should definitely choose to do. It's unique. It's different, and I'll give it that, and like I said, it has its charm, but it doesn't necessarily execute all of that too well, and I think people picked up on this. While the game was not liked by critics, it wasn't bombed either. It was very middle of the road, receiving anywhere from a 4 to a 6, which isn't good, you shouldn't strive for that, but it wasn't like considered the worst Sonic game of all time. We also gotta take into account that this game was following up these games, which is a hard task to follow. The game is lived on, looked at as that other Sonic game that released on the Mega Drive. Not too much has come out of it, and Sega doesn't really talk about it all that much. There's also an unofficial director's patch, which actually improved controls and gave you a level editor, password save system, time attack challenges, and even the ability to go supersonic. None of this makes the game that much better, but it has heart to it and that charm like I mentioned. It still isn't a great Sonic game, and I don't highly recommend it, but this is a piece of Sonic history, and I'll always look back on it as that weird little redheaded stepchild.
I think that's all of it. Jeez, I didn't know there were so many spin-offs to Classic Sonic. Truly, he is the overly merchandised Sonic. But for real though, this entire video was a lot for me to take in and research. I had to beat each and every one of these games individually, and that was hard. Really, really hard. But regardless, thank you guys so much for making it to the end of this video. I really think that Classic Sonic is an amazing character, and although I'm not a big fan of his constant usage in the recent years, I like to remember him for why he was made. Huge shout out to SpeedSuperSonic for coming onto the channel for today's video, and if you like my content, you'll definitely enjoy his. Links will be down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I've worked really hard on this video, and if you could do me the gesture of hitting that like and subscribe button, it'd mean a lot to me. My Twitter, Twitch, and Discord server will also be in the description down below if you think you'd be interested. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.